What's up, everybody? Brothers, sisters, psychonauts, and seekers of truth. It is Ananka, and welcome to my bazaar. Today, I will have two morphine overdose trip reports for you. The title of the first one is Near Certain Death, and was submitted to Erowid in 2007 by the user Sir Moses. With all that being said, let our story begin. So, you hear reading about the love-hate relationship I have with morphine. I started using MS Contin at about 16 and continue to use heavily until I was about 20 years old. My girlfriend and I, at the time, would get it from her dad, who got it from a friend with cancer, and eventually, we just went straight to the guy with cancer to get it. From doing it every other day for a few years, I naturally built up a tolerance. Usually I would take half of the 200 milligram MS Contin and snort it. It would take about a half hour to kick in, and then I would get the nods, where I would fall into a kind of sleep for a few seconds here and there, but never really falling asleep. One night, after visiting the terminally ill man, I had in my possession half of a 200 milligram MS Contin and two 60 milligram generic extended release morphine pills. Initially, I snorted the half of the MS Contin. I got a good buzz, but I wanted more. So I crushed up the two 60 milligram pills and parachuted them, meaning ground them into powder and wrapping the powder in a single ply of toilet paper and swallowing it with some liquid. Then I proceeded to drive a half hour to meet a friend at a store. When I was at the store for about an hour, I felt pretty high, but nothing spectacular. We went outside to smoke a cigarette, and I came to the realization that I was too high and tired to go back in. So I said goodbye and started driving home. That's when I blacked out. Next thing I know, I'm on a hospital bed with people rushing around the room trying to save my life. It was the morning by the time I was discovered, by my mom, laying in my bed, comatose. Apparently, I made it home and still managed to go upstairs into my bed and then passed out. I started to come to in the hospital after they had given me a shitload of Narcan, a drug used for opiate overdose that blocks the effects of the morphine in your brain and stimulates your respiratory system to get you breathing again. I felt them put the catheter in my urethra. Then when I woke up, I realized that I could hear only things that were close by and that I couldn't hear anybody talking to me. I had hearing loss. During my 3-day stay in the ICU, my hearing did come back, thankfully. This whole incident was eventually ruled as a suicide attempt, and I was committed to the mental hospital because of an overzealous paramedic that assumed my computer was on a website about suicide when it was just a desktop picture with some lyrics from a band that I liked. They say that I would have died if my mom wouldn't have found me. I still continue to debate this fact to this day, because if I wasn't dead by the morning, I probably wouldn't have died. But this is only my thoughts. I am not a doctor, so I can't say whether I would have died. They say I would have, so that's all we go with. So when everything is said and done, I love morphine. Perhaps a little too much. Seeing as how I could have easily died from my habit, I haven't done morphine in over a year and didn't go through withdrawal after I quit. I still miss those days when I used to get loaded and read Playboys with my girlfriend. But in the end, it took me almost dying to quit. To this day, I would love to start up again, but curb my appetite with the occasional oxycodone binge. To all who read this, morphine is a serious, deadly drug. True, it has its uses in the medical field, but when used to get high, it can escalate to a bad situation very quickly. So, be careful. Our second overdose report of the day is titled Intensive Care for 3 Days. It was submitted to Earwood in 2005 by the user D. With all that being said, let our story begin. My boyfriend used to do opiates a good bit. Heroin, painkillers, etc. He had been sober for about a month when he decided to try morphine one time. He had access to 375 milligram generic morphine pouches. The first one, he split open the patch and ate the medicine inside. He then immediately applied the second patch to his back, and about 2 hours later, he ate the third patch. At this point, he was feeling a strong high, but decided 3 hours later to take the patch off of his back and eat the medicine like he did with the other two. After he ate the third patch, he was extremely high. He was feeling very nauseous, but could not throw up. It was hard for him to phrase full sentences, and he was very tired. About 2 hours after he ingested the last patch, we laid down, and he told me he had never been so messed up in his life. I started to worry because he has taken much higher doses of opiates before and should not have felt so high. Plus, he was breathing heavily and having trouble staying alert. Not more than 5 minutes after we laid down, I looked over and noticed him passed out with his mouth wide open. He started breathing very heavily, and then he was making choking, gasping noises, trying to breathe but not getting enough air. I yelled for his brother, who immediately called 911. I thought he might be choking, so we sat him up and tried to wake him up. At this point, his lips were blue, his body totally limp, his eyes closed, and he was not breathing despite his efforts. The 911 operator instructed us on performing CPR and told us to check every 30 seconds for a pulse. About 2 minutes before the paramedics got to the house, we stopped being able to feel his pulse. When the paramedics arrived, he went into cardiac arrest and was given adrenaline to restart his heart, plus a drug to counteract the effects of the morphine. He woke up immediately after his heart restarted, but was not coherent or aware of his surroundings. He was in intensive care for 3 days and was given methadone along with drugs to keep his kidneys from failing. We later found out the reason he had such a severe overdose was because each patch was a 3-day dose of morphine. He remembers nothing from the time he took the third patch until he was in the hospital. He has changed a lot since this incident. If he had been more careful and informed about the drugs he was taking, all of this could have been avoided. I saw someone I love almost die because of careless drug abuse. Hopefully good can come of this experience, and people hearing his story will realize they need to be extremely careful and informed when taking recreational drugs. Even when you think you are experienced, bad situations happen. So make sure the rewards are greater than the risks. All right, everyone. That is the end of our story. If you enjoyed them, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and share with us your morphine experiences down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other videos and playlists on my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Deuces.